Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Paige Show. So I am going to start this one off laughing, of course, because it is really, at this point, comical for no other word to use. That spirit is asking me to do the things that they're asking me to do. So if you think about the Paige Show, the whole theme of it is, we're giving out information, things, divine downloads that are coming to me are being shared, and it's all about helping people find their way through growth and awareness of belief systems and old needing to become new and all of the stuff that you know if you've listened to the Paige Show. And it's very spiritual, it's very real, all of those things. And so today's topic came to me in the middle of the night, spiritual growth syndrome. And I thought, what is that? Like, what are you guys doing to me? And it's really comical. I would do an episode on that because that's what the Paige Show is about, is growth. And I had to really understand where spirit was taking me with this. But it's really about how all of us, when we start this journey of light work or understanding self or being aware or, waking up, all right? That's the best way to say it. It doesn't come with all of the joy and beauty that it may be perceived as. Yes, there's all of that along the way, but there's a lot of pain with birthing something new. I mean, we know in reality that giving birth to a child is not fun. It's painful, okay? And so when you are giving birth to new things in your life, or you're birthing yourself anew through this spiritual journey, the evolvement of self, right? There are growing pains because that's what you're doing. You're growing, you're birthing things. And so spiritual growth syndrome, asking spirit, where are you going with this? What's this about? And they started to show me how during the growth process, as we gain information along our journey, as people who do this for a living, like me, are teaching others, you are teaching them what you're learning, in essence, what you've already gone through, your own growing pains, because how can you teach something that you don't know something about or you haven't had experience in? I'm sure there are people all over. We know examples of people who are doing jobs that maybe they have actual no personal experience with. And a great one to give an example is if you've ever gone through therapy. If you see a therapist for marriage counseling and they haven't had marriage counseling themselves or issues in their own marriage that would need them to seek marriage counseling, you can tell the difference of the energy of their advice. I know that because I've been through that too. And you want to look at them and say, have you ever even been married? How can you talk about marriage then? Or if they're helping you with advice on a child, have you had children? Because how can you talk about children then? Okay, it doesn't negate that people want to go and help, whatever they think they're being led to help with. But it's the energy I'm talking about. It's energetically different to receive advice from someone who's gone through something that they're giving you advice on versus just it's an idea in their head or a knowledge that they have, but they haven't felt it. They haven't gone through the growing pains of it. And so because the spiritual work is all about that, it's really easy to blur the line. I've done it myself, where I still, have to keep that in check. We all do, or we should be doing that, where you can blur the line of you're giving advice or you are teaching through awareness versus pushing it on people. And so as you go through the spiritual growth, that the building of self, the syndrome piece for this topic today is the syndrome that we start to come down with, where we go from teaching it or sharing it or just holding space for someone else to find that for themselves. We go from that into actually pushing it on them. And so the spiritual growth syndrome is that when we start pushing what we've learned onto other people, and we lose respect for their own self-thinking, or we lose respect for where they are in their own path. So I'm going to let that sink in for a second. As we evolve, we are gaining all of these different experiences and tools, and whether this is what you sign up to do for a living to help each other, whether that's your purpose, your what feels like your soul contract in this life or not, you're still doing it. You're doing it with a friend that's asking for help or a family member that's asking for help. We all do it. But what we have to really keep in check is the fact that they're not where you are. If they were, they wouldn't be asking for your help. And so it's a responsibility that we have not to fall into the syndrome of pushing it on them, saying, I've already been through this. This is what you have to do. You need to do this or that. Versus saying, this is what is going to benefit you or help achieve something that is for your higher good. You know, I've been through this. I can see that this or that will happen. So therefore, you know, if you do this is a tool that could help you. Or, you know, maybe I just need to sit here and hold space for you and listen today. Maybe there's no advice that I can give you that wouldn't be pushing something on you, and I just hold space for you. But it really comes down to just respect, asking them what it is that you really want from this. Okay, so the line can get blurred depending on what you're doing. Are you working with a client? Are you talking to a friend? You know, you feel like you have maybe different boundaries with different people. But when it comes to spiritual growth, there really are no different boundaries. It has to be one set boundary that you are doing this. You have experience with this. You've felt that growing pain already. You've birthed that new already in your life, and you can see the path for them. And so therefore you know that you could help them. But how are you going to help them is what you have to have the respect for. What's the best way to help them? And so I do believe that some people need to be pushed along their path. So when you talk about life coaching or inspirational speakers and things like that, you're pushing in a sense of motivation for people to wake up. I do believe that we all need that. But you're not pushing in the sense of, maybe a good example would be how religion has done. You're not pushing beliefs on them. You're not telling them this is the only way that could happen. You know, so it really comes down to respect of verbiage, respect of boundaries, and a deeper understanding of what the real big picture is, or what the real purpose of the lesson or message is. So I'm really passionate about that, because in my work, it has been very sacred and very important to me to have boundaries for that, you know, especially when it comes to my medium work or my intuitive sessions. But with all of my coaching clients, I have had times in the very beginning, if you were a coaching client back in 2015 versus one now, you will know the difference. You know, in 2015, I probably had times, I know I had times where I would push something more than just motivation wise, you know, like this is what you need to do kind of thing. And Spirit corrected my course on that. You know, this is all about being real. I think if we do spiritual work at all, we have to be able to say when we have failed or fallen short of something, because that in itself is our lesson on what we're here to do. And so I have myself gone through that. And so it's a very clear respect and awareness that I have now of, yes, I may see that this client or this friend is going to get stuck in this if they don't shift this or that. But it is in my verbiage how I have to change my motivation versus my pushing it on them. And so spiritual growth syndrome is just about that. We have to allow people to evolve at their own pace by really holding space for them. So you are holding an energetic healing space for them, whether it's just listening to them in that moment, or you're just giving advice, but you're not telling them that there's judgment on that. So, you know, I'm not going to like you more or like you less if you don't do this. I'm just saying, hey, I've been here. It's what, you know, this could be the outcome if you do this or that. But I'm holding space for you. So whatever you decide, that has to be your path. All right. And it's really, really hard, but you have to hold that boundary of respect to allow them to have their own self-thinking, so that it is their own growth. Because if they do choose a path that you're seeing is not so good for them, they have to be able to learn that lesson on their own for it to be a part of their story and down the road become a part of their toolbox so that they don't make that mistake again. And so just think about it. I think it's a cool topic, a cool, play on words, spiritual growth syndrome, that when you start to question if that's how you should have handled that, have your own self-respect and humbleness enough to say, I might have been in the syndrome state. I might have been in a pushy state on that one. And so, backtrack and do what you need to do to go back to just holding that space of healing. So spiritual growth is all about that. We're all in it together, and we all have to figure it out collectively, while at the same time being in our own little world, per se, like your own world, your everyday life, and your own soul contract is having to be played out while you're figuring out how that fits into the bigger collective. So this is not easy work. And so if you can say that you've never made a mistake, then you're not doing the work, because it's not easy work, and we will all fall short and make mistakes. And so I feel like with this, it's an easy word for you to remember, the syndrome piece of like, all right, just say to yourself, I was in syndrome mode, and now I'm going to get out of that, and I'm going to allow this space of healing for them to figure it out, but know that they can come back to this safe place to land, where maybe I have advice for them or something to offer that can help them on their journey, but I won't push it on them. I'll allow it to fall where it falls, and I will be here to continue to help guide them or lead them into their own awareness and their own self-growth, so that they can be the one that births all of the new along the way. And in that, they will find their own joy and inspiration, which is something you can never give someone from you. That has to come from within. And that is literally the fuel that keeps us going on a journey that can feel painful most of the time, right? We have to be able to be fueled with that spark of joy and inspiration, so that we feel the need or the want to keep going along this path, along this journey, and fulfill the contract in the best possible way, which is what we really all came here to do.